everyone and welcome to CVLOG. So in today's episode I'm going to be giving my top 5 tips that I would give to my younger self as a musician. So upon reflecting this year, I thought that this would be a really fun topic, not only so you guys could get to know me a little bit more, but also if you're a new musician and you're watching this channel, I'm really hoping that these bits of advice will be helpful, because they're things that I wish that I'd have known years ago that now I look back on and I think, oh, if I'd have known that, I could have done this. Or, you know, if I'd have learnt that, then I could have learnt this or done this way in the future. And so I really hope that these tips help you today. So kicking off with number 1, comparison kills creativity. So everyone's probably heard of the saying, comparison kills, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone's on their own journey. And this is something that I've definitely had to tell myself time and time again. When I was in my early teens, I was so envious of other musicians. If they were better than me, then I'd be like absolutely stewing inside, just angry, like I want to be that good, I want that, I want what they have, why can't I have that? You know, I'd start comparing my voice to theirs, I'd start comparing my playing style to theirs when I was different, and so were the other musicians. And so comparison killing is a real thing and it's a real issue, particularly now in our culture. It's become an automatic thing to just compare yourself to another person. And social media obviously doesn't help this, but as a musician you need social media. And so I don't know about you, but I always feel torn in between these two worlds of wanting to give up social media so I'm not comparing all the time, but needing social media because it's actually a great tool for musicians. And so one of the things that I wish that I'd have known when I was younger would just be not to compare myself, and that it really is the most pointless thing. Because I think one of the main things that really struck me was someone once said to me, you know, blowing out someone else's candle isn't going to make yours shine any brighter. And everyone really is on their own journey, you know. People, one success for someone in the industry doesn't take away from your success. And this is something that I've definitely had to learn the hard way, particularly in my early teens and even up to my late teens. And even still now I do it. If someone releases a song, I'm like, oh, you know, I want to release a song that's that good. Oh no, am I not a good musician because I'm not releasing music like that? And you do instantly compare. And so one of my things that I would definitely tell my younger self is don't compare. It's such a waste of energy. You could be using that energy to create and to write, or to, you know, to just have happy thoughts rather than just comparing yourself. And so this is definitely something that I would tell my younger self. Comparison kills. Don't worry about other people. You're on your own journey. Focus on yourself. And number 2, don't beat yourself up. So this is something that I still have to tell myself now. I'm so critical of myself, and if you're watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, then you're not the only one. I think it's an artist thing. So if you're a musician or you're a creative, it's so easy to just slate your own work. And this is something that I've desperately tried to work on. You know, there have been many times where I've written a song and my other half's come in and he said, oh, that's great. And I've been like, no, it's not, it's terrible. And I've like ripped up the paper, thrown it on the floor and just thrown a strop, and then ended up rewatching Friends for an hour. But it hasn't helped me. Beating myself up all the time has not helped me at all. You know, if I've missed out on opportunities or I've lost competitions, you know, I get home and I'd hate myself almost. It became such a negative connotation if I failed something or if I didn't do something how I imagined it to be. I totally would beat myself up, and you know, I'd call myself useless. I'd just be horrible to myself. And honestly, this just doesn't help you. It's so important to give yourself a break, to be nice to yourself. I know it sounds really weird, but it's so true. You know, give yourself rest days, give yourself me days, and it really does help you to create, and it helps you to do better mentally. And when I was younger, I always beat myself up about learning guitar when I was on piano and I couldn't play a song properly. And I just wish that I'd have known that I needed to give myself a break. And so if you're sat here today and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that is literally me, I'm so tough on myself now, and you know, you're young, or you know, no matter how old you are, but you're thinking in your mind, I need to be good at this by this timeline, then just don't put that pressure on yourself, and just be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself, because you know, it will learn itself, as they all say, or the song will write itself eventually. So just don't put pressure on yourself, and you know, don't be mean to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. That's definitely something I wish I'd have known. And number 3, you are never too old. So you might be watching this thinking, you know, Carly, how old are you? Or, how old do you think you are? So I'm 25, and that isn't very old at all. In my mind, I'm still 16, so, you know. But when I was in my early 20s, so probably 2021, I always told myself that if I couldn't reach a goal by the time I was 25, then I was too old. Like, genuinely. And I don't know about you guys, but if you watch singers or you see singers in the charts and they're all upcoming, they're all quite young, you know, like 18, 19, even 20. And so in my mind, that was my thing. I instantly thought, oh, I'm too old now. That was genuinely my thought, because it's all focused on young, you know, like I'd been in competitions where 12-year-olds had won, and I'd be like, oh, it's because I'm not young anymore. And that was when I was 16 that I would think that. You know, and I just think I wish that I'd have known back then that, you know, when I went into full-time music, I was 23. But to me, that would have been old at 16, 18. And so I wish that I'd have told myself that I'm never too old. And if you're watching this now and you're thinking about starting music and, you know, you're older, or you think that you're old, you're never too old to chase your passion, to chase your dream. I mean, I think Sia, she was 40. When she was singing on tracks like Titanium and things like that, and when I saw that, I was like, wow, you know. Hayley Williams, one of my favourite singers, I believe that she's 31, 32. So it's you're not too old to go into music, you know, you never are. And I genuinely, now looking back, wish that I'd have just not ruled myself out of things because I felt like I was too old, when honestly it's just ridiculous that I'm even saying or thinking that. And so this is something that I wish that I'd have told my younger self, that, you know, you're allowed to have dreams for as long as you want, and, you know, don't let what you visually see, so all these teenagers doing really well in the music industry, make you think that you're too old to do that, or to produce music, or be a musician. So that is definitely a piece of advice that I would give myself. I don't know if anyone else can relate to it, but that's what I would tell myself. And number 4, most important one, do it because you love it. So when I started going into full-time music, as I said, I was 23, and I'll be completely honest, I had no idea that you could be a musician. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but in my mind, musicians were people like Ed Sheeran or you know, my favourite bands, or they were musicians to me. And so I didn't think that you could be a musician locally. Like, genuinely, it never even entered my mind. It was only when I started busking and then I got into actual gigs that I realised, oh, I could do this as a job. I could actually do this as a job. And it took me a little while to get there, because I just, honestly, it was a distant dream for me. It was something that just, in my mind, it just wasn't going to happen. And the reason why I did music for a lot of my life is because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing piano, I enjoyed writing songs. I hated learning guitar at first, but I eventually loved it. You know, and I love singing, I love listening to things and going, oh, can I sing that? You know, watching Disney movies and, you know, singing about Disney all around the house, you know, that was me all the time. And then when I hit 23 and I decided that I wanted to go into it, obviously when you turn your passion into a job, there's always going to be negative things that come with it. And so what ended up happening was, when I went into full-time music, I started to be obsessed with numbers. And this is something that a lot of musicians do, and I know that it's something that they do, where you're now thinking, how many streams has that got? How many likes did that get? How many comments did I get? How many saves did I get? How many shares did I get? And you start, honestly, it all becomes about the numbers. Well, I can't do this, what I want to do, cover my favourite song, because it's not popular, whereas, you know, I could cover something in the charts that I don't like and get more views. And in honestly, probably about last year when COVID hit, I started to feel really conflicted about this, and I started to think to myself, am I doing this because I enjoy it, or am I doing it because I feel like I actually have to do it? And so I sat myself down and I kind of went over a few things and, you know, mulled a few things over. And I started to realise that I was becoming obsessed with the numbers. It was probably because I wasn't gigging as much, because in COVID, obviously, you couldn't gig, you can't have live music events. And so I was so focused on social media, and it was honestly awful, and it wasn't very good for my mental health either. And so I started to kind of do music covers and do and even write songs for other people or for people's approval, and it just wasn't helping me. And only when I sat down and I went, no, I'm doing this for myself, I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and I didn't force myself to release something or do something, that is when I actually felt a lot better. And so with music, do it because you love it. Don't do it because other people tell you that you should do it. You know, don't do it because, you know, you feel like you have to impress people, because honestly, you'll just be very disappointed. Like, you know, people don't tend to care until you get somewhere. And this is just a fact. You know, people will not share your music that much. They won't pay any mind to you until, you know, you get a hit, and then everyone's like, oh, I knew her, or I knew him when they were here. You know, that's just the way that it is. Because you have to kind of gain the traction and gain attention for people to be like, oh wow, she's actually serious. Do you know what I mean? So this is one of those things. Do it because you love it. Don't do it for other people, because, you know, it's one of those things where music is such a powerful and important thing, but the problem is so many people are trying to pursue it, and I'd argue that a lot of the people that are trying to pursue it aren't doing it because they love it at all, or because they enjoy it. They're doing it because they want fame, or, you know, they want something out of it, or they want to be respected by people. And although that's fine, it's just not the best way to go. And you might not agree with me, but that's just how I feel about it. And that's definitely something that I would tell my younger self, to keep doing it because I love it. You know, don't make the mistake of falling into numbers and, you know, thinking that people don't like your music because they're not sharing it all the time, and just things like that. And finally, number 5, goals are awesome, but they're not everything. So this is something that I still tell myself now as a musician. So I have to-do lists, 5-year plans, yearly goals. They are all written up. I've got in my mind what I want on social media, what I want at gigs, what I want to, you know, do in terms of releasing music, campaigns, things like that. I have it all written out. And that's fantastic. And you might be thinking, well done, Carly, that's very organised. That sounds like a good thing. And goals are a good thing, but they're also not everything. And this is something that I really had to learn, particularly during COVID. So in March last year, before everything, you know, hit the fan, quite literally, I had a load of goals. But the problem was, the goals were things like perform at festivals, perform at live events, release an EP, which obviously after COVID hit, I had no money, like no financial income, because gigs were cancelled. And so all of my goals had been shattered, gone. 2020 was not the year to achieve my goals. And so I kind of sat there and I was really mopey. I honestly cried probably every day for a year during 2020. It was awful. Obviously my wedding and stuff had been cancelled as well, but all the music stuff on top of it, I was just severely upset and just inconsolable a lot of the time. And so I decided one day when I was sat down to just go, right, I need to change my goals. And so what I did was, instead I did things like have this many followers or subscribers on YouTube or Instagram, join TikTok and give it a go, you know, and they were little goals to me, you know, little small steps, but I was getting there with them, and it really did help me mentally just to tick these little things off. But I started to realise when I was doing it that it didn't matter if I didn't meet my own expectations. Like, it's great to put them there, but if you don't meet them, then just set new ones. And I kind of learnt that, and it was so refreshing. Like, it's so good to have goals and dreams, but it's also good to remember that, you know, life happens, and you can have days where you don't do any music stuff and you just sit and watch a new series with your other half or your friends. You know, go out and enjoy the sun for a week and just don't worry about any music stuff. Goals are fantastic, but like I said, they're not everything. And I've certainly had to tell myself that many, many, many times. And so I really hope that this advice has been helpful to you guys today, particularly new musicians or anyone that's watching that's thinking about going into music. Hopefully this gives you a bit of an insight. You know, being a musician is absolutely fantastic. It hasn't been for the last year, obviously. It's been quite tricky and difficult, but I've got hope that this year is going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing for musicians. And remember to keep creating. You know, don't be hard on yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. And don't give up and keep going. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm so sorry that CVLOG was late this month. As always, my podcast will be on Vision Quest Sound, and definitely read up on this article as well. If you want to go back to it, you can go on visionquestsound.com. And yeah, that is everything. And my next C vlog will be next month, and along with my CVTV as well. I'm making cupcakes this month, so definitely tune into that. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!